Hello, everybody. What's up? What's up? I hope you're ready for this little review session. It's going to be online, and so I hope it helps you. So what we're going to do is we're going to go a little bit over the Jeopardy, as well as on top of the Jeopardy, we're also going to look at some of the concepts from the test. So let's do this. Okay, so let me enlarge this so that you can see it. So these are pretty much the Jeopardy questions. Okay, so let's look at the first one. Speakers who read from word for word scripts or recite memorized text achieve best results. That is false, because what you're trying to do is you go from an organic or to an organic outline. So you're trying to use an outline and then improvise your language as you go along. Now another question. Which of the following is considered part of speech delivery? So audience analysis, nonverbal skills, research, supporting materials, topic selection. So the answer is nonverbal skills, because what's happening is what you're doing is you can analyze the audience ahead of time. You can research ahead of time. You can provide supporting materials ahead of time, and topic selection ahead of time. In most public speaking situations, which of the following delivery modes achieves the best results? Now, in this case, is it extemporaneous, impromptu, memorization, monotone, or reading from a manuscript? In this particular case, it would be extemporaneous, because extemporaneous allows you to use and choose the best fresh language for the situation and to modify what it is that you're actually saying. So the best answer is extemporaneous. Explain how panning serves as a speech delivery technique. Be sure to define the term and list its benefits. So panning is when you're actually looking back, and like when you're swiveling your head and you're providing eye contact to the rest of the audience. And what that does is it engages the whole audience during that process. Speeches should use more formal language than written work. Is that true or false? That is obviously false. So speeches use more informal language, and written word uses more formal language. So speeches should use less formal language than written word. Which of the following is generally advised for spoken language but not written language? Analogies, clarity, metaphors, repetition, and similes. It is repetition, because what you're doing is you're saying things, and oftentimes the audience forgets what you're saying, so you want to be able to repeat yourself. Which of the following sentences provides a denotative meaning, which is a dictionary definition? It would be B, a cat is an animal in the feline family, because all of the other ones are connotation. A cash cow makes a great deal of money. Carla's a breath of fresh air. She's the engine driving the organization. Those are all connotations, but the actual dictionary definition would be a cat is an animal in the feline family. Define the term jargon and give some strategies for its use in oral presentation. So jargon is specialized language that is particular to a certain category of people. So for example, doctors have certain kind of jargon, or the military has certain kinds of acronyms that they use, and they stand for something else. So jargon is language that is specific to a particular kind of field, and not a lot of people know it outside of that field. That's what makes it jargon. To avoid confusion, most speech instructors suggest creating just one version of a speech outline. Absolutely not. Remember, you got to have the two types of outlines: the preparation outline and then the speaking outline. So the more detailed outline you prepare from, and then the one that you speak from. When presenting to an audience, a speaker should refer to which type of outline: detailed, subordination, word for word, working, or speaking. The answer is obviously speaking. You are referring to a speaking outline. In a speech outline, supporting materials that are relevant to the main point they support demonstrate the principle of connection, delivery, demonstration, evidence, and subordination. The answer is obviously subordination because you're creating a hierarchy. So main point one, sub point A, sub point Roman numeral one, something like that. So that would be a process of subordination when they support the main point. Describe delivery reminders as speech mechanism and provide some examples. So delivery reminders are simply things that have to do with your delivery, such as speak up, look up, provide emphasis, slow down, pause, etc., etc. And as a speech mechanism, what they do is they help you with the flow of your speech and your presentation. Because an introduction is shorter than the speech's body, it is less crucial. The answer is easy, it's obvious, it's false. Introductions are just as crucial as the body. They are very important. Which of the following is not a purpose of a speech's introduction? Build audience interest, establish speaker credibility, explain the topic's importance to the audience, signal the speech's topic, or state the speech's main points in depth. This one's a little tricky, but it's actually state the speech's main points in depth. Your goal is not to go super in depth. Your goal is to just give a quick, brief preview and not an in-depth overview of what you're saying. In a speech's introduction, which of the following would not serve as a striking or provocative statement? A compelling fact, an ironic statement, new idea, surprising statistic, or well-known fact or idea. The answer is E, well-known fact or idea, because it's not striking or provocative, and everybody already knows it, so it doesn't really resonate with the audience all that much. Explain the role of a clincher in a speech and tell where it should appear. So explain the role of a clincher in a speech. A clincher is something that ends on a strong note, and it should be the very last thing that you have in your presentation. It should be the very last part of your presentation. During processing, this is in listening, receivers evaluate verbal and nonverbal cues. That is absolutely true. That's what you do during the process of processing. It's you're evaluating verbal and nonverbal cues. People who hear rather than listen do which of the following? They allow no distractions, identify delivery cues, process content actively, receive messages passively, and remember sentences fully. So remember, people who hear rather than listen, what they do is they receive messages passively because they're not really paying attention. They're receiving the messages passively. The retention phase of listening emphasizes ability to remember what is heard, amount of material that is delivered, impact of outside distractions, number of disagreeing listeners, and speaker's pattern of speech. It's the ability to remember what is heard. That is the correct answer. That's what retention means, the ability to remember what was spoken. Explain how unprocessed note-taking prevents effective listening. So unprocessed note-taking is where you just automatically write down what is in the material, and you're not really paying attention to the actual material. It's just an automatic process where you're just writing things down. You're not saying it in your own words, you're just copying it as you see it on the board. And it's problematic because you're used to it, so you're not really paying attention or engaging with that process. So now what I'm going to do is, for the second part of the presentation, what I want to do is I want to go over some concepts and ideas for you. So things that you want to be aware of for the exam. So one of the things that you want to know is that idea of panning. So do you know what panning is? Panning. Another thing is you got to know what gestures are. So for example, things like a clenched fist or an open palm, you know, some of those kinds of things are a sign of a gesture. know what is physical movement. So that's when you're moving around the stage. What constitutes physical appearance? So what are the kinds of things? There's like clothing, grooming, your hairstyle, your jewelry. Those are all parts of your physical appearance. What is the role of pausing in spoken presentation? So what does it do? What does pausing allow you to do, or what does it not do? So know the role and how pausing works. Know what projection is. What is projection, and be able to illustrate it. Know the different ways of delivering a speech, memorizing from a manuscript, impromptu, extemporaneous, so on and so forth. What happens when somebody reads from a manuscript? What's one of the downsides of that? They end up being more monotone, right? Know what vivid language is. What is vivid language? Know what a stereotype is. Be able to identify a stereotype. Know what a metaphor is, what a hypothetical example is. So how would those function? Know the difference between a concrete and an abstract sentence. So a concrete is, this review session is happening on Friday morning in October, and the weather outside is sunny and nice, right? You're being very concrete. Or if you're talking about a car, it's a 1998 Toyota Supra, so on and so forth, right? So that's the idea of concrete sentence. What is jargon? Remember things like what could be an example of a jargon. So know what it is. So if I give you an example of a jargon, be able to identify it as such. Know the role of repetition. So how does repetition work? What's the difference between oral and spoken language? Remember that oral language allows you to be more adaptive. It's simpler. It's not as formal as written language. Know what delivery reminders are. Know what the different sections in an outline, introduction, body, conclusion, and works cited or evidence section. Why does extemporaneous delivery get the best results? What's the last part of a working outline? Know what transitions are. Where do transitions occur in a presentation? Okay, so no subordination and coordination. What should you do when you're outlining the body of the speech? Where's the majority of the speech occur? Introduction, body, or conclusion? What should you do with a clincher? What strategy should you use while using a clincher? What does a well-crafted clincher look like? Can you provide an example of a transition? What should a conclusion do? Know what a signpost is? Know what a preview is? Know what's the role of a what's in it for me statement. So what it does, it shows what the audience stands to gain. What is the role of suspense in an introduction? Know what an attention getter is. So what can you do to reduce ineffective listeners? So what can a speaker do to help overcome listening challenges, you could do things like you can anticipate an effective listening. You can consider energy levels. You can repeat ideas. You can use audience surveillance, those kinds of things to overcome listening challenges. What is internal noise? What constitutes interactive listening? So what kind of behaviors? What are argumentative listeners like? What do they do? What is a non-listener? What is unprocessed note taking? What is the retention phase of listening? What is processing? Remember the difference between listening and hearing. And then people who hear, what do they do? They take in information passively. So with that being said, that kind of concludes the review. I covered a Jeopardy. I covered the concepts on the test. So I hope this helps and is beneficial.